The Billionaire's Disguise. What you're about to hear sounds impossible, but every word is true. Before Marcus Chen became worth $8.3 billion, before the tech empire, before the Forbes covers, before the penthouse overlooking San Francisco, he made a decision that would change everything. He walked away from his life of luxury and disappeared into a struggling Tennessee town with one mission: find someone who would love him for who he was, not what he owned. The woman who captured his heart was Sarah Mitchell, a single mother of two, working 3 jobs to survive, with $67,000 in debt and a bone-deep distrust of wealthy men. She had no idea the quiet mechanic next door, the one who fixed her dying Honda that freezing Tuesday morning, controlled more wealth than she could imagine. This is the story of what happened when those two worlds collided, when love bloomed in deception, when truth became inevitable, and when Sarah's reality shattered in a single evening. Marcus Chen didn't look like a billionaire as he sat in his modest rental house in Millbrook, Tennessee, staring at his hands. Hands that had signed billion-dollar deals now had actual grease under the fingernails. He'd been here 6 weeks, living as Marcus Chen the mechanic, and the loneliness was crushing. 6 months ago, he'd been at a Manhattan gala with Veronica Laurent, draped on his arm like expensive jewelry. He'd excused himself for a call and returned to hear her talking to his associate, David Zhao. "I'm not saying I don't like him," Veronica had said. "But honestly, the man is exhausting. Every conversation is market disruption and quarterly projections." "Someone worth $8 billion, David had laughed. "I know, and the perks are substantial. But sometimes I wonder, if he lost it all, would anyone even notice him? Would I?" Marcus had stood frozen as the truth crystallized. Every relationship was transactional. People saw the billions, never the man. He'd become invisible, replaced by a walking dollar sign. That night, he'd decided to disappear completely. Strip away the wealth, live as an ordinary person. Find someone who could love Marcus Chen the man. His only confidant was James Rodriguez, his former business partner who thought the whole thing was insane. "You're playing with people's lives," James had warned during their last call. "If you meet someone, tell them the truth immediately." Marcus had agreed. But intentions and actions are different things. Sarah Mitchell was 34 and exhausted in a way sleep couldn't fix. Standing in her kitchen at 6:47 a.m., she calculated whether she could afford to fix the washing machine or attempt another YouTube repair. 3 jobs kept her afloat. Full-time at the community college under the condescending Mrs. Henderson, weekends at Ruby's Diner, and evening bookkeeping for local businesses. After rent, childcare, food, and minimum payments on the debt, her ex-husband Derek had left her. She had maybe $200 per month as a buffer between survival and catastrophe. Derek had seemed charming when they'd met 8 years ago. Within 6 months, they were married. Within a year, Sarah was pregnant with Emma, staying home like Derek insisted, trusting he was building their future. The marriage ended when she discovered $67,000 in secret credit card debt, gambling, other women, a life built on lies. The divorce was brutal. Derek disappeared to Atlanta, sending sporadic child support checks when he remembered. Now Sarah existed in constant crisis management. Every expense calculated, every purchase weighed. She bought clothes at thrift stores, cut her own hair, made meals from sale ingredients. She said no to her children more than yes, and the guilt haunted her. 7-year-old Emma wanted ballet classes like her friend Sophie. 5-year-old Lucas wanted the superhero toys at Walmart. They wanted movies, ice cream, birthday parties at the fun center. Sarah said no to everything, each refusal a small failure. Poverty wasn't just lacking money. It was the mental load of constant vigilance. Every unexpected expense felt catastrophic. She could never relax, never stop calculating, never simply exist without financial anxiety's background hum. It had made her suspicious of easy answers and deeply distrustful of men who promised to help. The Honda wouldn't start. Sarah turned the key again, panic rising as she checked her phone. 7:52 a.m. Emma's school started at 8:15. If she was late, she'd hit her third tardiness at work, triggering a written warning from Mrs. Henderson. "Mom, we're going to be late," Emma said, 7-year-old anxiety clear in her voice. Sarah closed her eyes and did math. Tow, $75. Diagnostic, $50. Repair, $202,000. She had $340 in checking. Rent was due in 2 weeks. Ms. Mitchell. A man stood beside her car, her new neighbor who'd moved in a week ago. Tall, early 40s, with kind eyes and the calm demeanor of someone who actually knew how to fix things. "Car trouble?" he asked. Every instinct screamed to refuse help. But Emma was crying. Lucas was confused, and she was out of options. "Yes, please." He popped the hood, checked a few things, and said, "Try it now." The engine caught immediately. "Loose battery cable," he explained. "I tightened it. Should be good for a while. How much do I owe you?" He looked genuinely confused. "Nothing. It took 2 minutes." "No, really. Ms. Mitchell, 2 minutes and a favor between neighbors. You don't owe me anything." Sarah studied his face, looking for the angle. But she only saw a tired man in work clothes who'd helped because she needed help. "Thank you. You might have saved my job." He smiled. "I'm Marcus, by the way. Marcus Chen." "Sarah. And these are Emma and Lucas." After he left, Sarah sat in her idling car for 30 seconds, trying to figure out what she'd missed. What she didn't know, Marcus had loosened that battery cable the night before. He'd watched her routine for 3 days, waiting to create this exact moment. The entire meeting was engineered. James had been right to worry. Marcus's experiment had already crossed ethical lines, and it would only get worse. Over the next 2 months, Marcus became part of Sarah's landscape. He fixed her leaking faucet, helped carry groceries, built Emma a bookshelf, refusing payment with gentle firmness. "Neighbors help neighbors," he'd say. But Marcus wasn't just playing a role. As he spent time with Sarah and her kids, something unexpected happened. He fell genuinely in love. Sarah was funny in ways that caught him off guard. She noticed details. How Mrs. Henderson wore perfume only on Thursdays when she lunched with her daughter. How the mailman Jerry forgot to whistle when having a bad day. She found joy, despite exhaustion. Dancing with kids while cooking, silly voices during bedtime stories, wonder at small things. She was also fiercely intelligent. When Marcus mentioned using process of elimination on a repair, she'd said, "So you used a decision tree. Start with likely causes, test each, eliminate until you find the answer." "How do you know about decision trees?" "I took business classes before Emma. Never finished. Life got in the way. But I loved logic courses." She'd paused. "My whole life is basically a giant decision tree. If I do X, then Y happens, so prepare for Z." Marcus's heart had ached. Here was someone who could have excelled in any field if circumstances had been different. Instead, that brilliant mind calculated whether Emma could get new shoes this month. Sarah was also guarded in ways that broke his heart. She never complained, never asked for help. When he offered to watch the kids so she could have an evening off, she'd looked at him like he was speaking another language. "Why would you do that?" "Because everyone needs a break. Because you work 3 jobs and barely sleep." She'd studied him with sharp green eyes, looking for the trap. "Thank you, but I'm okay." The breakthrough came in late December, when Lucas had an asthma attack. Marcus drove them to the hospital. 20 terrifying minutes of Lucas struggling to breathe while Sarah held him, talking in that calm voice that belied her terror. After Lucas stabilized, Sarah finally broke down in the hallway. Marcus pulled her into his arms while she sobbed. "I'm sorry," she gasped. "I don't usually—" Don't apologize. You just watched your son struggle to breathe. I can't afford to fall apart. If I fall apart, everything falls apart. Marcus held her tighter, feeling the full weight of his deception. Here was a woman forced to be strong so long, she'd forgotten vulnerability. And he was lying to her about everything. The truth sat in his throat. He could tell her now, explain who he was, offer help that would transform her life. But he didn't, because he knew she'd see the lie underneath everything. She'd wonder if his feelings were real or if she was just another project. So Marcus held her and stayed silent, and the lie grew deeper roots. January brought heavy snow. Sarah's Honda died completely on the 15th, transmission failure. The estimate was $2,100. For 3 days, Sarah walked to work, 6 miles daily through snow with 2 kids. Mrs. Henderson made pointed comments about her appearance. Marcus heard from Ruby and showed up at the college. I heard about your car. Let me fix it. No. Sarah, you're walking 6 miles in snow. I'm managing. What if you hire me? We'll set up a payment plan. $5 a week, whatever you can afford. Sarah looked for the trap. $5 a week for a $2,100 repair isn't a business transaction, Marcus. It's a really bad business transaction, but I'm not a very good businessman. He smiled. Say yes, Sarah. Pride versus necessity warred on her face. Finally, okay, but I'm paying back every penny. Deal. He had her car running within a week. What he told her was creative problem-solving with salvage parts. What he actually did was buy a new transmission and install it, paying the $2,100 himself. When Sarah brought him that first $5 payment with homemade cookies, tears in her eyes, Marcus felt something break open. This was what he'd been searching for. Authentic connection, genuine exchange, mattering to someone not for what he owned, but what he did. The fact it was built on deception seemed like a technicality. Sarah began letting her guard down. She started accepting help with small things, started sharing more of herself. One evening in late January, she opened cheap wine, a rare luxury, and they talked about families. My dad left when I was 12, Sarah said, just walked out. I saw him maybe 5 times before he died when I was 23. I'm sorry. Before he left, I thought we were close. He called me his little princess. Then one day I wasn't enough to make him stay. You know what that does to a kid. You weren't disposable. Your dad made a choice about him, not you. I know that intellectually. But there's still a part of me wondering what I did wrong. She took a drink. Then I married Derek, who did the same thing. So I guess I have a type. Men who leave. I'm not going anywhere, Marcus said quietly. She smiled sadly. Everyone says that. Then they leave anyway. Not everyone. Not me. How can you promise that? Because I'm falling in love with you. Sarah stared at him, fear and hope warring on her face. I'm scared, she whispered. Me too. Then they were kissing, and Marcus tasted coffee and hope and everything he'd been missing. I can't afford to love you, Sarah said when they pulled apart. If this goes wrong, it won't. You don't know that. You're right. But Sarah, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. She kissed him again, and Marcus made a choice. He wouldn't tell her the truth. Not yet. He'd wait until they were stronger, until she trusted him completely. Then he'd tell her everything, and she'd understand. It was the kind of logic that makes perfect sense when you're desperate to believe it. Valentine's Day, Marcus planned carefully. He showed up at Ruby's at 11:45 p.m. as Sarah finished her shift, exhausted from working all 3 jobs. Got time for coffee? There's something I want to show you. She smiled tiredly. It's almost midnight. I know. If you're too tired. Okay. He drove them to the small park, in the moonlight and snow, with white lights he'd strung through the trees. It looked magical. He'd left hot chocolate and a blanket on a cleared bench. Sarah stopped, breath catching. "Marcus, did you do this? I thought you might like it, after the day you've had. It's beautiful." They sat drinking hot chocolate, talking about dreams and fears. "I can't remember the last time someone did something like this for me," Sarah said quietly. "Just something nice. No agenda. You deserve nice things." "Do I? Sometimes I wonder if I'm being punished." "Sarah, sorry, that's too dark. You can be anything with me." She turned to look at him. "Why do you care so much?" "Because when I'm with you, I feel more myself than I have in years. Because you and your kids have become the most important thing in my life. Because I'm falling in love with you. Actually, I think I've already fallen." "I'm scared," she whispered. "Me too. I can't afford to love you. I can't afford for my kids to love you. If this goes wrong, I promise you, Sarah, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." They kissed in the falling snow, and Marcus felt the weight of his deception like a physical thing. This perfect moment was built on lies. But he couldn't stop. He'd gone too far, felt too much. So he kissed her and told himself, love could overcome anything, even the truth. February through April were the happiest months of Marcus's life. He and Sarah fell into a relationship that felt achingly real. He became part of their family. School plays, t-ball games, homework help, bedtime stories. The lies multiplied like weeds, about his family, his past, his reasons for being in Millbrook. Every lie dug the hole deeper. But the feelings were real. Marcus had never loved anyone like this. Emma asked one Saturday if she could put him on her family tree for school. "Can I? You're kind of like family now." Sarah had gone very quiet in the kitchen. "How about a branch that says friends who are like family?" Marcus suggested carefully. "Okay, but Mr. Marcus, are you going to stay? Mom says people always leave, but I don't think you will. I'm going to try really hard to stay, kiddo." Trying isn't the same as staying. Later, Sarah pulled him aside. "You didn't have to make promises. I meant it. Kids take things literally. If you tell Emma you're staying and then have to leave, she'll think you lied. I'm not your dad. I know, but Emma doesn't." In April, Sarah's friend Chen cornered Marcus. "Sarah talks about you constantly, so I'll ask directly. What are you getting out of this? I care about her and her kids. And when you get bored, when the novelty wears off, that won't happen. Men always say that." Jen stepped closer. "I've been putting Sarah back together for 3 years. If you hurt her, you'll answer to me." The irony was suffocating. Everyone warning him not to hurt Sarah, while he was perpetrating the biggest deception possible. But he smiled and nodded and said all the right things. May 23rd started like any other Thursday. Then James Rodriguez drove up in a Tesla Model S. Marcos felt his blood turn to ice. James was supposed to call before visiting. "Jesus Christ, Marcus, what the hell are you doing?" James said, stepping out in a designer suit. "You shouldn't be here. We need to talk. Now." Inside, James looked around the modest rental with barely concealed horror. "What's going on?" Marcus demanded. "What's going on is you've been ignoring my calls for 3 weeks. The board needs you. You have a $10 billion company. 8 billion. 10. Q1 earnings were exceptional. Your net worth increased by 2 billion while you've been playing poor mechanic." "I'm not playing. This is my life." James laughed harshly. "This is a fantasy. You're lying to everyone around you, including..." He studied Marcus's face. "Oh my God, you met someone. Her name is Sarah. She's... I don't care. Does she know who you really are?" Silence. "Marcus!" James's voice mixed pity and horror. "When she finds out, and she will, It's going to destroy her. You're building a relationship on lies. I'll tell her when the time is right. When is the right time to tell someone you've been lying for 6 months, that you're actually a billionaire conducting a social experiment? It's not an experiment. I love her. But it's not real. She doesn't know you. She knows Marcus the mechanic, not Marcus Chen, who's worth 10 billion, who dated supermodels, who's on Forbes covers. That guy isn't real. What I am here, this is real. I came to tell you there's going to be an article. Forbes is doing a feature on reclusive tech billionaires. Your name came up. You have maybe 2 weeks before someone figures out where you are. Tell her first, Marcus. Don't let her find out from the internet. I will, I promise. James left, but his words stayed. Marcus sat on his cheap couch facing what he'd been avoiding. James was right. Every day he didn't tell Sarah was another day of betrayal. He would tell her this weekend. He'd explain everything and hope she'd understand. He had 4 days to plan. He had no idea Sarah would discover the truth in 48 hours. Sarah was at Marcus's house Saturday morning to water his plants. The kids were at Jen's. She had his spare key and was about to leave when she noticed his laptop open on the kitchen table. She didn't mean to look, just planned to close it. But the screen lit up and she saw the email. From James Rodriguez to Marcus Chen. Subject: Board meeting. Tuesday. They need your decision on Singapore expansion. Marcus, I know you don't want to deal with this, but ignoring it doesn't make it go away. The board needs your approval on the Singapore facility. This is $400 million in capital deployment. They can't move forward without you. Also, I'm sorry about Thursday, but please, think about what I said. That Forbes article is happening. You have maybe 2 weeks. Tell her first. Don't let her find out from the internet. Sarah read it 3 times, then started scrolling through his email. Emails from Apex Systems, emails about shareholder agreements, emails from financial advisors about portfolios worth billions, emails from people requesting investment capital. And there, an email from 3 months ago from James. I think this Millbrook experiment is a mistake, but I'll support you. When you tell her the truth, do it face to face. She deserves that much. Experiment. Sarah sat down heavily, unable to breathe. She pulled up a browser and typed his name with shaking hands. The results loaded. Marcus Chen, founder and CEO of Apex Systems, valued at $10.3 billion. The reclusive billionaire who predicted the AI revolution. Articles from Forbes, Bloomberg, TechCrunch, photos of him at galas with beautiful women. His Wikipedia page. Everything was a lie. The humble mechanic story, the modest house, every single thing about the man she'd fallen in love with was fabricated. He'd been pretending, playing a role, and she'd been stupid enough to believe it. She thought about the battery cable that first morning, searched his emails and found it. A message to James dated November 12th. I'm going to create an opportunity to meet her tomorrow morning. James had replied, Marcus, please reconsider. This is manipulative and wrong. You're talking about sabotaging a woman's car so you can rescue her. Marcus's response, it's not sabotage. I'm just creating a situation where I can help her. Once we meet organically, everything else will be genuine. Sarah closed the laptop with numb hands and walked back to her house. She didn't scream, didn't cry. She just sat at her kitchen table, cold and hard inside. This was what she was, an experiment, a project, a poor single mother a billionaire could play house with until he got bored. Marcus returned home 2 hours later with groceries for dinner, the night he'd planned to tell her everything. He saw Sarah on his porch and smiled, then saw her face. Sarah, what's wrong? Who are you? What do you mean? Don't say you're Marcus Chen the mechanic. She stood, holding his laptop. I came to water your plants. Your computer was open. I saw the emails. The ground dropped out from under him. Sarah, I can explain. Explain what? How you're actually a billionaire playing dress up. How I've been your pet project. That's not what this was. Then what was it? Because I read your email to James, the one where you plan to create an opportunity to meet me. You loosened my battery cable, didn't you? He couldn't lie anymore. Yes, Jesus Christ. She sat down like her legs wouldn't hold her. This whole thing was planned. You researched me, picked me out like I was a charity case. No, I didn't know what would happen. I didn't plan to fall in love. Don't, her voice broke. Don't you dare say you love me. People who love each other don't lie. They don't manipulate. They don't conduct experiments. Everything I felt was real. It was built on lies. Every moment you were lying. Every time I trusted you. Every time I was vulnerable. Every time I let you near my children. You were lying. Tears streamed down her face. Do you have any idea what you've done? I'm sorry. God, Sarah, I'm so sorry. I know I should have told you sooner. But please, give me a chance to make this right. How? Do you want to write me a check? Sorry I lied. Here's some money. That's not because I don't want your money. What I wanted was honesty. Someone who saw me as an equal, not a project. Someone I could trust. And you took that from me. You can still trust me. The person you know, that's who I really am. No, the person I know wouldn't have lied for 6 months, wouldn't have manipulated me from the first moment, wouldn't have let my children get attached to someone who doesn't exist. I do exist. I'm real. But your life isn't. Your house isn't. Your story isn't. Emma asked me last week if you were going to be her new dad. Lucas told his kindergarten class, you're his friend, who teaches him to fix things. You didn't just lie to me. You lied to my children. That hit Marcus like a physical blow. You know what the worst part is. Sarah's voice broke completely. I believed you when you said you understood, when you said you got what it felt like to struggle, to be invisible. But you were just studying me. Let's see how the poor people live. That's not fair. Fair. Her laugh was hollow. You want to talk about fair. I told you things I've never told anyone. I trusted you with my children's hearts, and you were playing a game. It wasn't a game. It was the first real thing I've done in years. No, it was the first selfish thing. You wanted to feel good about yourself, so you played pretend with people who couldn't afford to check your story. She started walking away, then turned back. You say you were trying to find something real. You can't build real on fake. You can't create genuine connection through deception. And you can't love someone and lie to them at the same time. She walked away, and Marcus stood holding groceries for a dinner that would never happen, watching the only woman he'd ever really loved disappear. The next 2 weeks were the worst of Marcus's life. Sarah wouldn't speak to him, wouldn't answer calls or texts. When he knocked, she didn't answer. Emma and Lucas didn't understand. Marcus saw Lucas playing outside and waved. Lucas started, running over. Then Sarah called him sharply back. The confusion on the boy's face broke Marcus. He tried everything. Wrote a 10-page letter. She returned it unopened. Sent flowers. She threw them away. Tried catching her at Ruby's, but Ruby intercepted him. I don't know what you did, but that girl has been through enough. Leave her alone. James called daily. The Forbes article was coming. Marcus ignored it all. Jen found him outside his house 3 days later. I should have trusted my instincts, she said. But Sarah convinced me you were genuine. I know. Save it. You didn't just break her heart. You broke something deeper. Her ability to believe in good things. Her willingness to trust. You reinforced every lesson Derek taught her. I love her. No, you don't. You love the idea of her. If you actually loved her, you would have respected her enough to be honest. Jen turned to leave. Sarah asked me to tell you. If you really care, you'll leave Millbrook. Let them heal. The next day, James called with urgency. The article is published tomorrow. It includes your location. Journalists are going to descend on Millbrook. They'll find Sarah. She'll be humiliated nationally as the billionaire's secret girlfriend. Marcus felt sick. I won't let that happen. How will you stop it? He couldn't, unless he left before the article dropped. Disappeared so thoroughly journalists couldn't connect him to Sarah. I need a favor, Marcus said. Set up a trust for Sarah, anonymously, make it impossible to trace to me. Create a fake legal settlement. Make it look like she won a lawsuit against Derek for unpaid child support. That's another lie, Marcus. I know. But it's a lie that helps her. Right now, protecting her is all I have left. That night, Marcus packed. He wrote Sarah one final letter. Not begging or explaining, just truth. Sarah, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. An article comes out tomorrow exposing who I am. Journalists will come looking for me and for you. I won't let you become part of that. You were right about everything. I was selfish, manipulative. I don't expect forgiveness. I'm just asking you to believe one thing. My feelings were real. Everything else was fake, but what I felt for you and your kids was genuine. I've arranged financial help. It will look like a settlement with Derek. Please accept it. Not for me, but for Emma and Lucas. I'm sorry I hurt you. I'm sorry I lied. I'm sorry I wasn't brave enough to be honest from the beginning. You were the best thing that ever happened to me. I was the worst thing that happened to you. I'll live with that knowledge forever. Marcus. He left it in her mailbox at 3 a.m. and drove away from Millbrook, heading back to a life that felt even more hollow than before. 6 months after Marcus left, Sarah's life looked completely different. She'd quit the community college after Mrs. Henderson's condescension became unbearable. She used the settlement money. She knew it. Came from Marcus, but couldn't afford to refuse, to return to school online, working toward her business degree. She now worked one job at a nonprofit helping low-income families. Better pay, better hours, meaningful work. She'd moved to a bigger house in a nicer neighborhood. Enrolled Emma in art classes and Lucas in soccer. Bought a reliable car. Lucas's asthma was controlled with proper medication. The settlement had transformed their lives, just like Marcus intended. But there was a hole. Why doesn't Mr. Marcus come over? Lucas still asked weakly. He had to move away, honey. But he promised to teach me to change a tire. Emma didn't ask, but Sarah would catch her staring at the house next door with sadness that made Sarah's heart ache. Sarah had read enough articles about Marcus to understand why he'd lied. He'd been searching for authentic connection in a transactional world. The problem was he'd chosen to find it by lying to people who had no choice but to be authentic. On a Tuesday evening in November, exactly 1 year since the battery cable, Sarah's doorbell rang. She opened it and froze. Marcus stood there, older and more tired than she remembered, wearing simple clothes, not expensive suits, not mechanics' clothes, just normal clothes. "Hi," he said quietly. Her heart pounded. "What are you doing here? I know I promised to leave you alone, and I have. 6 months, but I can't keep living like this. I need you to know the truth, the real truth, just me. I don't think, please, 10 minutes. If you want me to leave after that, I will." She should have said no, but she'd wondered about this moment for 6 months. "The kids are at Jen's. You have until they get back." They sat in her living room. Marcus looked at her like she was water and he was dying of thirst. "I'm going to tell you everything. No performance, just truth." And he did. About growing up feeling invisible. About transactional relationships. About the gala when he'd overheard Veronica discussing him like a paycheck. About the desperate loneliness that drove him to Millbrook. I know it was wrong. But Sarah, what I found with you wasn't an experiment. It was the first real thing I'd experienced in years. How can I believe anything you say? Because I'm here. I could have disappeared, but I can't. I tried. I threw myself into work, dated other people, did everything to forget you, but I can't. What we had was the most real thing in my life. It was real for me, too, Sarah whispered. That's why it hurt. I'm sorry. I wish I'd told you from the beginning. But I can't change the past. All I can promise is complete honesty from now on. I used the money. I know it came from you. I'm glad. Sarah, that money is 0.05% of my net worth. For you, it's life-changing. For me, it's a rounding error. Using it doesn't mean you owe me anything. That's easy for you to say. Maybe. But strength isn't doing everything alone. It's knowing when to let people help. Sarah felt tears. I hate that you're making sense. I've had 6 months to think about what I'd say. Sarah, I don't expect you to forgive me, but I'm asking you to try. Not to go back to what we had. We can't. But maybe build something new, something honest. Just 2 people trying to figure out if what they had was strong enough to survive the truth. Before she could answer, the door burst open. Emma and Lucas tumbled in, then froze seeing Marcus. "Mr. Marcus!" Lucas shrieked and launched himself at Marcus. Marcus caught him, and Sarah saw his face transform. Pure, unguarded joy. The kind you can't fake. Emma hung back, uncertain. "You left. I know, I'm sorry. You didn't say goodbye. That was wrong. I'm sorry, Emma." "Are you back?" Lucas asked. Marcus looked at Sarah. Sarah thought about forgiveness and trust, about her children who deserved to see people could make mistakes and still be good, about herself and what she wanted beyond security. She wanted love, real, complicated, imperfect love. "We'll see," Sarah said carefully. "Maybe that's a start." Lucas beamed. Emma studied them both. "If you're going to leave again, just go now," Emma said. "It hurt too much last time." Marcus knelt to her level. "Emma, I can't promise nothing will ever go wrong, but I promise, if I have to leave, I'll tell you why. I'll say goodbye. I'll never disappear without explanation, and I'll always care about you. That won't change." Emma studied him. "Okay, but I'm watching you. If you hurt my mom again, I'm going to be really mad." "That's fair." Sarah watched this exchange with tears in her eyes. Her fierce daughter. Marcus, humble and honest in a way he'd never been. "Stay for dinner," Sarah said. "We can talk more after the kids go to bed." Marcus's face lit with hope. "Really? Really? But this isn't forgiveness. This is just a start." "I'll take it." They took it slow. Marcus visited twice weekly at first, never presuming, always leaving when Sarah said. They went to therapy for 8 weeks, unpacking the deception, learning honest communication. Marcus learned to text when flights delayed, call when meetings ran long, include Sarah in scheduled decisions. Sarah learned to voice needs, give benefit of doubt, separate Marcus from Derek. There were setbacks. When Marcus flew to Singapore for 4 days, Sarah panicked, certain he wouldn't return. When he did, exactly as promised, she'd broken down. "I thought you weren't coming back." "Sarah, I told you 4 days. I know, but Derek used to say that, then disappear for weeks." After that, Marcus video called every night when traveling so Sarah could see his hotel room, see he was where he said he was. They worked through the wealth gap in therapy. Sarah struggled accepting help, feeling it diminished her worth. The therapist helped her see that interdependence was healthy, that accepting help didn't make her helpless. Marcus eventually stepped down as CEO, staying as chairman but moving to Millbrook full-time. He bought a house in Sarah's neighborhood, set up a home office, and became something he'd never been. Present. By June, 18 months after the revelation, they were in a relationship that felt both familiar and... One evening, Sarah mentioned Derek's lawyer had called. Derek's remarrying. He wants to sign away parental rights so his new wife can adopt his stepchildren. He's offering to relinquish custody in exchange for waiving future child support. Marcus felt rage. He's abandoning them. Legally, yes. Practically, he did that 3 years ago. Sarah's voice was neutral. I'm going to agree. Why? Because Emma and Lucas don't need a father who sees them as obligations. They need someone who shows up. Marcus understood what she wasn't saying. Sarah, I'm not pressuring you. I'm just saying Derek can go. We'll be fine. Marcus stepped closer. What if I want to adopt them? Sarah went still. Don't joke. I'm not. Sarah, I love those kids. Being part of their lives is the best thing I've ever done. If Derek's abandoning them legally, why wouldn't I step in? Because it's forever. Because I love them. Because I love you. Because this is what I want my life to be. You can't decide to adopt children on a random Tuesday. It's not random. I've been thinking about this for months. Sarah, if you're letting Derek relinquish rights, I want you to know, I'm here. I'm all in. Sarah was crying. What if we don't work out? Then we don't break up. Sarah Mitchell, will you marry me? The words hung in the air. Sarah stared. That's not a real proposal. Marcus got on one knee, pulling out a ring box he'd been carrying for weeks. Sarah Mitchell, you are the strongest, smartest, most extraordinary person I've ever met. You've survived things that would break most people. You've raised 2 incredible children. You've given me a second chance I didn't deserve. I love you. I love Emma and Lucas. I love the life we're building. Will you marry me? Sarah was sobbing. You're an asshole for doing this while I'm making spaghetti. Is that a yes? You lied to me for 6 months. I know. You hurt my children. You reinforced every fear I have. I know. And I'm sorry. I'll spend my life making it up to you. Sarah looked at him. The answer is yes, but if you ever lie again, about anything, we're done. No second chances. I understand. And you're not buying me some ridiculous ring. We're getting something reasonable. Marcus looked at the $85,000 ring and realized she was right. Okay, we'll pick one together. Also, I want a prenup. I want it documented that this isn't about money. Sarah, for me. I need to know I'm choosing this for the right reasons. Okay, prenup, reasonable ring. Your way. Our way, Sarah corrected. We're a team. Our way. Emma and Lucas burst in, arguing about movies. Are you guys kissing again? Lucas asked, disgusted. Actually, Sarah said, Marcus just asked me to marry him, and I said yes. Emma's eyes went wide. Does that mean Marcus is going to be our dad? Marcus knelt down. If you want me to be. I love you both, and I want to be part of your family officially. But this is your choice too. Will you still leave? Emma asked. No, I'm not going anywhere, I promise. Emma looked at her mother. Is it okay if I'm happy about this? Sarah's heart cracked. Yes, baby. It's okay to be happy. Lucas threw himself at Marcus. Are you going to adopt us? If you want me to, yes. Cool. Emma hugged Marcus carefully, then whispered, Thank you for coming back. Thank you for staying. That evening, after the kids went to bed, Sarah and Marcus sat on the porch. Are you sure? Sarah asked. PTA meetings and homework. Your life will be so different. I'm choosing you, and I've learned, wealth means nothing without people to share it with. What if I'm still scared sometimes? Then we work through it together. Trust isn't something you have or don't have. It's something you build, day by day. The rest of our lives is a long time. Not long enough, Marcus said, and kissed her under Tennessee stars. They married 6 months later at Ruby's Diner. 30 people, community support. Marcus's tech friends, including James as best man. Sarah wore a $400 dress. Emma and Lucas were in the wedding party beaming. The adoption went through 3 months later. Emma and Lucas Chen Mitchell. Derek signed away rights without protest. Marcus stepped back from Apex, remaining chairman but working from Millbrook. He coached Lucas's soccer, helped Emma with art, learned carpools and lunches. He was a soccer dad, a PTA member, a man who'd found what he'd been searching for, not in the way he'd planned, not without pain, but he'd found it. Sarah finished her degree and started her master's in social work. She worked at the nonprofit, now assistant director. They started a foundation together, combining his resources with her expertise to help single parents. 2 years after the wedding, they sat on their porch watching Emma and Lucas play with neighborhood kids. "Do you ever regret it?" Sarah asked. "Giving up the tech CEO life," Marcus laughed. "I wake up next to you. I have breakfast with kids who want to talk to me. I coach a terrible but enthusiastic soccer team. I'm part of a community that knows me as Emma and Lucas's dad. This is everything I wanted." "But you had to lie to get it. The fake identity was more real than the authentic one. Marcos the mechanic was who I wanted to be. Convenient rationalization. Maybe, or maybe we're all performing to some degree. Maybe authenticity is being genuine in interactions, honest in feelings, real in connections. Spoken like someone who lied for 6 months. Fair." He pulled her closer. "I screwed up massively, but honesty is what got us here. And here is pretty good. James called last week, said you're a better person now than before. That the experience changed you." Marcus thought about that. "Before I met you, I was arrogant. I thought money solved problems. I didn't understand privilege. You taught me that people who struggle aren't struggling because they don't work hard. That poverty isn't moral failing. That wealth doesn't make you deserving. You made me understand things I'd been blind to. So maybe the lies had value. Maybe they got us somewhere we needed to be. Are you saying you forgive me? I forgave you long ago. What I'm saying is, I understand. I don't excuse it, but I understand." Emma ran up. "Mom, Dad, can we have popsicles? Dad." She'd started saying it 6 months ago. Every time, Marcus felt warmth bloom in his chest. "Sure, kiddo." Emma ran off and Sarah watched with tears. "What's wrong?" "Nothing. 2 years ago I thought I'd be alone forever, and now I have this." She gestured at their life. "Sometimes it's hard to believe it's real. It's real. Sarah, this family we've built, this is the most real thing in my life. Even though it started with lies, we tore down that foundation and built a new one, on honesty, on trust, on choosing each other every day." She kissed him, and in the background, they heard Emma and Lucas arguing, neighborhood kids playing, Ruby calling about a community meeting. It was ordinary. Mundane, imperfect and messy and real. It was everything Marcus had searched for when he'd driven into Millbrook 30 months ago with a fake identity and desperate hope. He'd found it. Not as planned, not without pain. But he'd found it. And Sarah had been brave enough to give him a second chance. To risk being hurt again, to rebuild trust with someone who'd broken it. They sat as the sun set over Tennessee, wrapped in each other and the life they'd built. Not perfect, not without scars, not without occasional doubt, but happy. Authentically, honestly, imperfectly happy. And that was worth more than all the billion Marcus had ever made.